Okay, so good day. So for our this session, we will cover the fundamentals of PHP. So PHP is it has a recursive definition. So it stands for PHP Hypertext Preprocessor. So basically, it is server-side scripting language. So meaning all of your codes or files are uploaded in a server, and your clients may request certain functions, and those functions are being parsed in the server, and then PHP may return whatever response to the client. So PHP can be downloaded at php.net, and as you can see here, you just need to go to the downloads page. But for local environment, for local development, so I will suggest to have XAMPP installed instead. So XAMPP can be downloaded in apachefriends.org, or you just basically Google it, and on the first result, that is where you can find Apache Friends. So for this session, we'll just download the most recent version of XAMPP. So why XAMPP? So why do we need to use this instead? Because if you're going to download PHP, so you will also need to download Apache. So Apache is a web server, so it's an open source, it's free. So you'll need to install them separately, and you will need to configure them. So for local development or testing purposes, you'll just need to install XAMPP, because XAMPP will automatically configure the files for it to be able, or I mean for you to be able to use PHP. So as for beginners, so I will recommend to use XAMPP. So just need to download the latest version. So right now we have for PHP, it has the latest version, which is 8.4. But on XAMPP right now, they only compiled 8.2, but it's still fine. The major release is still version 8, so you just need to download it, and it's pretty it's very easy to install. So it has a installation wizard, so you just need to click on buttons. So you just need to install it on your preferred directory, but on my case, it is installed under the D partition. So if you have a partition, or I'd say the D partition, so I would recommend it to install it there. So in case something happened to your computer, or like for example it gets corrupted, at least your files will not be included. So your files will still be retrievable. So in my case, I installed it on D, and XAMPP will install it under the folder XAMPP. And under the htdocs folder, this is where you actually add your files. So in my case, I've already created a new folder called test, and you might as well follow. So you just need to create a folder called test in the htdocs folder. Okay, so once you have installed XAMPP, you just need to open the XAMPP control panel, this one, or you can just search it under Windows. You can search XAMPP, and you'll see this result, or the button here. You just have to click on it, and you will see a window like this. So since we'll be only using PHP, so we just need to just run Apache. So just click on start button here, and you will see Apache you will see a green background. So it tells you that Apache is running without any issues. But if you'll see a yellow background or red background, so you most likely have an error, so you might just have to debug it. But if it's a fresh installation, then there's nothing to worry about. So you just basically see a green background here. So another thing that you need to check is like for example, if you are working on a different PC, or maybe you borrowed your parents' laptop or your family's laptop, so you have to make sure that you are working on the correct directory. So obviously, if you have installed it, so you know where to install it. But in some cases, if it's not your computer, or if it's not your machine, so you have to make sure that you are working on the correct directory. So to do that, you need to look here on the right side. You'll see a button called Explorer. So if you click on that, then it will automatically open the installation directory. So this tells you that this directory, so in my case is on the D directory, or D partition. So this is where the correct installation directory, because in some cases people tend to work on different folders, so they end up confused, right? So they get confused why their codes are not working, why their files they already added the code, but somehow it's not showing what they've done, no? What they made, no? So this is the important thing that you need to check first if you are working on a different machine. So click on Explorer, and you'll see the actual installation directory. Okay. So with that, you've already installed XAMPP, and you already know where to locate the installation directory. And next thing you need to do is you need to have an editor. So you might want to install an IDE or a text editor. Some may prefer an IDE, so you can you could just Google an IDE, and you'll see a lot of IDE, open source, free. So, or if you could just Google IDE for PHP, then you'll see there JetBrains, NetBeans, Eclipse, right? So Eclipse is a very famous IDE since it is free, and even NetBeans. So aside from that, you could just explore, or experiment what IDE you think that is suited for you. Aside for IDE, you could also use text editor. So I think this VS Code is the most popular text editor right now. But in my case, I still use Notepad++. So you can just check on that and try it on yourself and see if it works for you. So in this recording or session, I'll be using Notepad++. So okay, so once you have your text editor, your XAMPP installed, so you may proceed with the actual coding. Alright, so in my case here, I've already created a test folder under htdoc, so you might as well do that and open it in your notepad. So to do that, you could just click on File and then Open Folder as Workspace. So this is recommended since you'll actually see all of your files in your panel, in this panel here on your left side of your editor. So I've already created a file here, index.php. So just remember that in Apache or the web server, index, as long as it's C, an index name, a file name index, it will automatically open it. Like for example, to open our what we are working right now, so you can open your test directory here. For example, here test. So for you to run your website or your PHP code, you can by default the what do you call it, the domain name for Apache or for XAMPP is localhost. So if you open localhost in your browser, so you'll see this page. So make sure that you are running your Apache here. If not, if we're going to stop this, then you'll see it won't work. So you'll see error page, so like this. So make sure that before you test your code, you make sure that Apache is working, or it's starting, or basically it has this green background, so it tells you that it's working. So with this, by opening localhost, you'll see the home page for the SAM. You'll see some descriptions here and even the links here at the top. You'll see there PHP info. So PHP info, it's basically just an information for the configuration or settings for your PHP. So as you can see here, you see the current version, the system, yeah, the Apache configuration, and so on. So in the future, it might be useful if you try to debug your website. So you might want to check this to see you might be missing an extension or plugin, and so on. So on the Apache homepage, you also see there the PHP My Admin, which is for PHP My Admin for managing your database. So by default, or I mean, MySQL is the default database for SAM. So as you can see here, I already have an error here, but we'll just disregard this since it's not part of the topic. Maybe I'll just fix it later on my end. Okay, so after that, since so you already know where to open your website, so again, localhost might be different on some other devices, so different configuration, so you might want to check that. So localhost is where you access your files or execute your website. Since we have folder tests in our htdocs, so that means the localhost will have this URL localhost/test. So test3 here in our URL is actually corresponds to the folder inside our htdocs. So if you have so if I have here an excerpt2 folder here, so I can access it in the URL. We also typing localhost/excerpt2 or excerpt3. So it should corresponds to the folders inside our htdocs. So again, as you can see here, I have typed test here, but as you can see, the index file was already executed. So that's the behavior of Apache. So if you open a directory in the URL here, and it sees a file with the name index, so it will automatically execute that file. Or if you want, you can explicitly type the file index.php file here, so it will also execute. But again, for Apache, if it does see an index file, so it will automatically execute it. That's regardless. It's regardless what type it is. So if I'll rename this as HTML, so it will still execute it as long as it has the name index. Let's try removing the index, the file type. So let's see what will happen. Okay, so it seems that it doesn't execute the index without the file extension. So let's say .txt. So let's try that. Okay, unfortunately it doesn't execute. So it seems that PHP and HTML are executed, right, as long as it has the index file. But if you're going to rename that, let's say hello, then it will not be executed, but rather it will expose or show you the content of the directory. So for security reason, you should have an index file inside your directory. So this is to make sure that no one knows what are the content of your file, of your directory. As you can see here, it just show all of the files inside a certain directory, so it's not good for security. There. Okay. Okay, so now you know how to execute your PHP file via the browser, right? By opening the localhost URL together with the directory that we have here, which is test. All right. So in terms of PHP, you can actually mix it with other text. Like for example, you can mix it with the plain text like that, so it will be still be executed. You can mix HTML elements like this, or so you can still mix your other text with PHP, as long as you have your PHP tags. So PHP tags looks like this. So this is the opening tag, which is the less than question mark and PHP word. So that's the opening tag, and the closing tag is the question mark and greater tag. As long as you put your PHP codes in between the tags, then there will be no problem for you. Of course, you will have to add a valid PHP code there. So in this case, I've added this text. So obviously, this is not part of the PHP syntax. And if you're going to check on your browser, so you'll have this error. So it points. So we have this error, and you'll have the word in. So meaning this error will be found on this file and on this line. So that's the it shows you how to debug the error. So it should be rest. It's on the line 7 on the file. So you can add as many PHP tag as you want. There's no limit. So depending on the requirements or how you design your program, so you can add whatever tags there. Like for example, so for us to display or output a certain value in PHP, we will have to use the echo function. So echo function, it works as print on other languages like Java Python. So echo is a way for us to display a certain value. Like for example, my name is John, like that. And if we're going to, you have to make sure to save your file, of course, to see the recent update for your website, like that. And you'll see that this text or string has been displayed or outputted using the echo function. So we can add again as many tags there. Say like Nana. So as long as you have the closing tag, I mean the opening tag and the closing tag in between your PHP codes. And one thing that we need to know is another thing is if you're going to like for example create a PHP file and its content you're not planning to add other text. So if you're planning to add a pure PHP code, then there is no need for you to close your PHP code like this. So it's actually recommended. They said that it's actually much faster. So if you're planning to add a pure PHP code in your PHP file, then there's no need for you to close your PHP tag. And also, if you did not rename or add an extension file called a .php extension file, then all of your PHP code will be ignored. So the web server will not parse this to PHP, but rather it will be ignored. So if you are going to add your PHP code here, but unfortunately your your file doesn't have the PHP extension, then it will be ignored like this. So if we're going to check this in our browser, for example, and execution, you'll notice that it did not execute a certain file because we actually have this. Oh yeah, it did not execute. See next HTML. Yeah, there we go. So as you can see here, your PHP code was actually been printed or displayed in your browser. So you have to make sure that if you are planning to execute your or add a PHP code, you have to make sure that you add it in a .php file. Okay, so it won't be executed. Okay, so let's just delete this. Okay, let's delete the HTML. So again, if you're planning to add pure PHP code, then there's no need for you to close your PHP tag. You might be using only one PHP tag. Oops, PHP, and there you have. As you can see here, this is the actual output coming from the browser. So some HTML elements may be included for it to be able to be executed in the browser. Okay, so another thing, you might encounter this line of code. Say this one. So this is sorry. So this is shorthand for the echo. So if you want to, like for example, display a certain value or echo a certain value, so you don't need to type this whole thing, right? So you might not, you might want to use the shorthand. So this is a shorthand for the echo. And if we're going to check this, it does the same thing, but however it's much shorter than the regular PHP echo. Okay, but it's only one liner, so you can't do this. So let's try another one. Yes, as you can see, it did not echo or printed or outputted the other one. But let's try this. Let's try to use comma, and so far it does. So if you want to display multiple value, in our case we're using literal string, you could just use a comma, but you can't do, or maybe let's try this one. Right, it still does, but basically the shorthand for the echo is basically just a one-liner, which you could just it's used to display only value. Okay, next. So for the so PHP, if you have already used Java, C Sharp or C, so Java is different. I mean PHP is different to those programming languages. So PHP is an interpreted language, so meaning it does not compile. So all of your codes are being run on the fly, and it is being executed line by line. So if you execute PHP, so each of these line are executed. But in case of a compiler, you will know that there will be an errors after you compiled it. But in PHP, you might encounter a certain error during the runtime, because since it's not being compiled, it is being executed line by line. So in worst cases, errors might be encountered during execution or runtime, because it's not a compiled language. Okay, so better you have to make sure first before you deploy your website to check the errors first. Okay, so for variables, so PHP is the same as Perl, right? So if you check XAMPP here, you may see a Perl here, or no, it should be here on the home page. So you'll see there that we have here Perl. So Perl was actually inspired by it was a bit came from Perl, right? The PHP. So the syntax is basically the same as Perl, and how it create how you declare variable is also the same as Perl. So to create a variable in PHP, you'll have to add the $sign before an identifier. So you can create a name, like for example, name is this one, John. So PHP doesn't need to, it's not a strict type language, so it's actually a loose type language. So meaning you don't need to declare the data type for a certain variable. So in our case here, we just declare a variable and we assign a string value. But you can also assign a different type. So So like for example, we could declare 1, or assign 1, or you can assign a boolean. So that's how that's how loose PHP. But in the most recent version, we can actually define a certain data type, or declare data type for your variable. So PHP is now moving to a strict type language, but you'll have the option to not use or declare a certain type. So if we're going to run this or execute this, yes. So as you can see, there are no errors, since PHP implicitly converts the type for your variable. So you can assign a different type in runtime. So you can, during runtime, you can just change its type or value. So that's how you create a variable for your PHP. Again, it follows the standard naming for a variable, same as the other programming languages. So you can start with an underscore, but never a special character like that. And you may start with an underscore or alphabets from uppercase to lowercase, and may follow a certain number, but never a special character. So it's just not a valid identifier. Alright, so that's for the variable. But for if you need to create a constant variable for PHP, so you may use the define function. And the define function has two arguments that you need to pass. So the first argument is the variable name. So same as for the practices, to other languages, you will need to, as recommended, to uppercase the identifier for your constants. So like for example, big like that. So it is recommended or encouraged to use an uppercase for your identifiers for your constants. So the second argument is the value for that constant variable. So let's say like that. And for you to able to use this constant variable is to do this. As you can see, the quotes are removed when you need to use the constant variable. So in PHP, strings are, you can use single quote or double quote for your string. So this is a valid string. So if we're going to execute this, so you'll see this value. Okay. So string, single quote and double quote works for string, but they may differ at some point, which I will show you later. So that's it for the constant variable. So for string, like this. So you may use first now. So we'll discuss about concatenation. So in PHP, concatenation uses this dot operator. So you could for Java or for Java and C# you use a plus to concatenate a certain value to a string. But in PHP, you will need to use the dot operator or period to concatenate a certain value. It may be a literal string or certain numbers and so on. So the double quote is also a string. A single quote and double quote are strings, but they differ in terms of interpolation. So aside from concatenation, you can also use do variable interpolation like this. Let's do hello and do that. Let's do this. And it's not working for, apparently it's not working for what do you call that, constant variable. So let's try to use name. Okay, so last value we have is for the name. Yeah, it should be false. Okay, so let's just let's say 20. Okay, so there it goes. So we have in this example we did variable interpolation. So meaning we expand the value of a variable inside a string. So you could do string concatenation or you could do string interpolation. So what's the difference between a double quote and a single quote? So single quote and double quote are basically string, but double quote, I mean variable interpolation will only work in double quotes here. And if I'm going to change this into a single quote, and you'll see that the variable, the identifier of the variable is basically printed out or outputted. So it did not interpolate or expand the value of this variable. So that's the difference. Double quotes are used for variable interpolation, but double quotes and single quotes are both string. And again, double quotes works for interpolation only. So single quote will not work. Okay, so that's the difference if you're going to use the single quote and double quote for variable interpolation. Alright, so that's for the string, variables, and constants. So aside from constants and variable, you can also create objects and arrays. So in PHP, the way to create an array looks like this. So you assign a bracket to a variable like this, for example, or you could do this one. 5 and 6. The difference here is that this array function is only available on lower versions of PHP. I bet it's in less than PHP 5 version. So you might want to check this. So PHP 5, so lower, right? So lower than PHP 5. So the this is only available for lower than PHP 5, but this approach using the bracket will work on above PHP 5. So if we're going to use this bracket and if you're using a lower version than PHP 5, then this code will not work. So you'll actually get an error. I think it's I forgot the error, right? So I recommend to use this version or this approach, since lower versions are not used or discouraged to be used since there are security issues. So you might want to upgrade your PHP. I think there's they call that a low chance for you to be using lower versions. Okay, so in the future we will be using this approach. So we'll be using this bracket instead the array function for us to create an array. So with this we have actually created an array. So for us to display this, so we could simply equal and then call out the variable and a bracket and define or specify the element for the value. So like for example 1. So this means that we'll be outputting this. So an array always starts with an, the array element starts always in 0. So save this and refresh, and we have an error on line 9. Cannot use an empty array on line 9. Oh, sorry. So we have here an error here since we the commas are the values for the arrays are separated by commas, but it seems that we did not added here a value here in between. So we could either delete this or we could just add another one. Oops, there you go. So make sure that each elements are separated by commas. Okay, so that's 2 here. So just place it 2. Alright. In PHP, we have 3 types of arrays. So we have these numeric array. So numeric meaning their element or their index are numbers. But the other one is an associative array. So associative array, that is because their index is a string. So a numeric is number and associative is string. So you could actually name your element aside from numbers, right? So for example, name, and it should follow with this one. So this arrow operator. So this arrow operator in an array basically tells that the value, like this, the value corresponds to this element, right? Using this array. So if you need to add another element, we'll just add a comma. Say age, an arrow, and then the value. So you'll notice that the array in PHP doesn't have a type, or I mean a data type. As you can see here, it's a mixed type. You can mix a string together with a number and so on. So for us to use this or display the element, so we do this again. The array variable, the bracket, and then with a string, and maybe use age or name. So you'll notice again that the index or the name of the row or the element is a string, and you may use a single quote, or a double quote there. So that's how you extract value from an array. So refresh, then we'll have this chart. So this is an numeric array, and this is an associative array. So the third one is a multi-dimensional array. So with that, we can mix or add this both of this. So like for example, C equals like that. So you can add a single value, let's say hello, or let's just say bye or goodbye. And you can mix another array, like for example true, false, right? And you could add an associative array. Let's say what do you call this? An array. Let's say student ID, and then let's say 1, 2, 3, and let's say school, right? And you could say Stanford. In PHP, you could add an array at the end of the element, so that's fine. It will not gonna give us an error. So if we're going to refresh this, then there's no error. Okay, so there's no need, or it's actually it doesn't give yeah, that's it, right? So there's no error in that. Or you could mix another one. You could mix a numeric array, let's say 3, mixed with an associative array. So let's say ID, like that, and let's say ABC 1, 2, 3. As you can see here, multi-dimensional array, you can mix a single value with any type, with any data type, and with an numeric array. So as you can see here, we have a boolean here, an associative, and a mix of both. For us to extract this value, so you just need to map the elements. Like for example here, so this is the first level, so that's why I added here I mean I added a tab here. So this is just tells me that this is the first level, and on this case maybe, right, you can, for beginners, you could do this, and like that. At least it's much readable, right? So you won't get confused, and like that. So this one is the first element, and this one, this array, is for second element. This one is the third element. Oops. And then this one is actually the fourth element. Again, the array index always starts with 0. And this one is the second element. So in this case, we can map it by like this, 1 and 0. And this one is 1 and 1 and 1, right? So if we already covered arrays in your previous lesson, so this might be easy for you. So if we're going to display this one, so we're going to use this index or this array element. So C and then 0, and refresh or save and refresh, then we'll have this text. But if we're going to let's say this one, right? So this is from the second element, so this will be on the second level. So this is 2, 0, and this is 2, 1. So if we're going to display this, so we're going to use this. Since this is an associative, so this will look like this. and this one. Okay, so if we're going to use this or extract this value like this one, so we're going to use this first level, and then on the second level, that will be the string or school. Okay, refreshing this one, so we have the word Stanford. So this is how you map your arrays in a multi-dimensional array. So in this one, so this is the first element on the second level, so that means it's 3 and 0. For this one, it's 3, comma, and ID. So if we're going to add another level, the third level, so we could add another array, say 1, so 2.2 or 2.3, 9.9, like that. So this means this will be on the third level. So this means this is 1, and it is right. So it's 2. No, this is on the 1, comma 2, right? This is the 0 index, the first index, and this is the first index. And then we have here this value is 0. So 1, comma 2, and then 1. Okay, so let's try to display this. So that's 4. So 1, and then 2, and then 1. Okay, so let's check it. Oops, so error line 20. So we have an error here, so we forgot to add a comma. Refresh it, and we have the value of 9.9. So if you're a beginner, so you might want to do this to map your values or your elements in a multi-dimensional array. Okay, so that's for array. So for the what do you call that, control flow, so it also same as the other programming languages. We could it has the if statement, the switch, the for, and so on. Okay, so we might want to cover oh sorry, so we forgot to cover the operators. So in PHP, it also does have the arithmetic operators. That's the arithmetic. Assignment. The comparison, and then logical. So these operators might be a part of an expression for you later to create a result. So like for example, if we're going to use an if statement here, so if uses the if keyword, the word keyword, and inside these parentheses is an expression. So an expression again is a combination of literal values variables, constants, functions, objects, operators to create or produce a result. So our if statement here accepts an expression which results to a boolean. So your expression should return a boolean value, and which is a 2. So 2. So only true value are accepted in an if statement. Okay. So for example, what do we have here? If so let's use this variable. So if is greater than 0. So we have here an expression. So we use an comparison operator to check whether a certain value is met. Like in our case here, does the variable name is greater than 0, right? So it will check the value of this variable, and this expression will be executed, and it should produce a result. So this expression will return a boolean, and depending if it's if the value is true, then the if statement is met. So it will be enter this block, or this block will be executed. So blocks are represented by curly braces. So it acts much like a border, right? So this tells us that this statement is between this line and this line. So whatever code we have here inside this block will be executed, or parse, right? So again, this expression should return true, a boolean of true. So in our case here, we have a value. The variable has the value of 20. Like that. Okay, so this means that if this expression returns true, then this if statement or this block will be executed. So if we're going to check this in the browser, then we will see the word yes, because the condition was met, or the expression returned true. So if we're going to change this into 0, since greater than, so let's check it first, right? So if we're going to refresh it, then there's no word yes here, because this expression returned false. So greater than 0 meaning what follows after 0, right? So that is what it means when you say greater. So what follows after this value. But if we're going to add another comparison, which is greater than equal, so meaning this value and what comes after it. So if you're going to refresh this, then you will see the word yes. So meaning this expression returned true. Alright? Again, this statement, which is if, always returns false. But what if it does, right? What if it returns? What if these expressions return false? So if you want something to happen if the expression returned false, then in that case you will be using else. So that's the else. So I guess you already know this, no, from your, if you already been using Java and C. So this is just right a recap, right? But you know the rules, right? Oops. So 47. So we forgot to add a semicolon here. So unexpected token here. Okay. So refresh that. Then if we're going to change the expression here into a greater than, so that means what comes after this value. So refresh that. So we will have the word okay. Since this expression returned false, then the else statement will take over. So meaning this will be executed. Okay, what else? So you could actually, in your expression, you could combine other operators as well. So let's say name is only between 10, right? So let's say this variable has 20, but our expression tells us that it should be between 1 to 9, right? So less than again. So it is value what comes before this value, right? So before, so let's less than. So we're going to check this. So we have okay, the word okay displayed. So this means this expression returned false because our variable contains 20. So it doesn't fit on this range. So it's not between 1 and 9. Okay. So that's for the control flow, the if statement, and we could do switch as well. So we could just switch like that, and then we do use the keyword name. But if the value is 0, then we do this, else we do default. Switch 0, right? So we could do case 1, then I guess you know the rest. So switch is basically a bit different than if, since it will use the case to check different values. So you use case here. What if the value is 0? What if the value is 1? And so on. So that's for the case. While the if statement accepts expression, so it's much dynamic or flexible. So if you have if you will be using an expression to check a certain value, and use you may use if statement. Like that. So that's for the conditional statements. Okay, so right now value is 20, so let's say 20. Then you will see the word switch. Okay. So that's for the what do you call that? If statement. So another one, we have the iteration or the looping. So we have you do as well for in PHP. Okay. Okay, so right now, so let's see the output first. Okay, so we have an error 959. Okay, so what will be the error here? So count a. Okay, maybe we'll have to. Okay, so we have basically interpolated the value here. So we have the error here. We got an error this one because we did interpolated an array, right? But if we're going to use a normal variable like this one, so it's still okay, right? So it does work. But if you're going to interpolate an array or even an object, so you'll need to use curly brace for that. And then so we just basically loop between an array, and we use counter variable, which is I, to loop each of the elements of the array. So we use the function count, which is a built-in function from PHP, so there's no need for you to require or include. No. So it's already available to use. And this function count, accepts an array, and it will obviously count whatever element does an array have. And we use the bracket again to choose or to access the element, this one, and we use the counter variable to be able for us to loop for each element. In array, in PHP, we also have for each. So what it does, it's an iteration statement, but it will loop an array, not a variable. Like for example, let's say E as A. Example, like that. So we'll add a line break. So as you can see here, I have combined this HTML element, which is a line break. So basically, we'll have a new line after this string or output. Okay, oops. Okay. Oh, sorry. So it should be the other way around, like this. All right. So in for each, we will have this syntax. So inside this parenthesis, we will have the array, and we'll be using the keyword as, and then follow with this temporary variable. So this will be a local variable, and this will represent or will be assigned of the current element of this array. So like for example here, these are the elements of the variable of the array here, and each value here will be represented by this variable temporarily. So as you can see here, I have displayed the variable E here, and it does display each of the values of the element. So that's for each. You don't need to use the function count if we're going to use for each. So for each is basically created for arrays for you to loop, to iterate. Okay. Next, we have while. So while same as the again, let's say while excuse me, what we need to do here. So while, let's say, x is less than 10, and we could do x plus plus, and we could do x is like that. Fresh, oops, undefined variable. So we have an error here because we use a variable without declaring it first. So another x equals to 0. Like that. Okay, so we have this output. Okay. Word right. Okay. Okay. Hope this is better. Okay, so that's for while, and do while. Oops. So same as while, but it will execute first before checking the expression. So let's say y 0 is, and oops, y is less than 10. Error, so we have here, so what they have here on 973. Okay, we forgot to add semicolon here after the incrementation. Okay, refresh that, then same as so this is just a recap on how to use this iteration. So as you can see here, it does have the same syntax for Java and C, but it does but it will differ on the variables, on how you declare variables and other functions. So that's for iteration. Okay, so what else? Okay, so maybe we'll have to stop from here and include my other topics to the other video. So thank you.